So, think about a time you were given, just really solid, responsible advice.
Right, like the classic practical stuff.
Exactly. Like that well-meaning insistence that you should always, always have a fallback plan.
Oh, yeah. We hear that constantly.
Right. But what if that perfectly logical advice is actually the exact reason that you feel completely stuck right now?
That is a really unsettling thought, honestly.
It really is. I mean, we just have this massive cultural obsession with playing it safe. Cushioning every leap, hedging every single bet.
Yeah, it's like we're trained to do it from day one.
Exactly. But today on this deep dive, we are completely deconstructing that safety net.
And we have an incredible source to help us do that.
We really do. We're using a single, incredibly potent roadmap today. It's a viral and honestly profoundly unsettling graduation speech given by Denzel Washington.
Yeah, specifically an excerpt that's been making waves on the Motivation Arc channel.
Right. And I want to be clear about our mission today. This is not just about, soaking in some generic feel-good inspiration.
Yeah. No, not at all. We are going to extract a highly practical, actionable philosophy from his lived experiences.
Yeah, this is a framework you can apply to your own life today. Whether you are staring down like a massive career pivot or trying to get a terrifying creative endeavor off the ground.
Or even if you're just feeling paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong move, the path he lays out really challenges the foundational logic of how we approach risk.
It really does. And I gotta say, the journey we are taking through this speech is wild.
It's definitely a lot darker than you might expect from a commencement address.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're going to cover everything from a spectacularly botched Broadway audition involving sheet music for The Temptations.
Which is just a brilliant story.
So good. To a mysterious, almost eerie prophecy delivered in a Mount Vernon beauty shop.
Yeah, and an incredibly unsettling image of ghosts surrounding a deathbed.
Right. It is literally a masterclass in failure, mapped out by someone society typically only associates with immense, untouchable success.
Which makes it so much more impactful. And we have to start exactly where he starts, by attacking that universally accepted piece of practical advice.
The fallback plan. He completely dismantles it.
He really goes right for the throat on this one.
He does. He tells the audience that people are always advising you to make sure you have something to fall back on, and he just completely rejects the premise.
Yeah, he says, if I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything except my faith.
Right. He says, I want to fall forward, because at least if you fall forward, you can see what you are going to hit.
I love that. Let's actually analyze the spatial metaphor there, because it really reviews the underlying psychology of risk.
Yeah, unpack that for us.
Well, think about the physical act of falling backward. Your eyes are closed, or you're looking up at the sky.
You're completely blind to your environment.
Exactly. You are in retreat. You're adopting this defensive, protective posture against the world.
That makes so much sense.
And when you're constantly building and reinforcing a safety net behind you, your attention is fundamentally divided.
Right, because you're looking backward to make sure the net is still there.
Yes. You are allocating a massive portion of your mental, emotional, and even physical resources toward preparing for a reality where you fail.
Wow. So you are actively architecting the logistics of your own defeat.
Precisely. You're halfway out the door before you even walk into the room.
Because if your brain is dedicating, say, 30% of its processing power to figuring out how you'll survive the failure,
then you only have 70% left to dedicate to the actual leap.
which practically guarantees a lack of total commitment.
It really does.
Yeah.
If you know the net is there, the friction of your current struggle will eventually feel heavier than the comfort of that safety net.
Right, so retreat just becomes a mathematical certainty the moment things get difficult.
Exactly. But falling forward implies momentum. It implies an aggressive, forward-facing trajectory.
Your eyes are wide open.
Wide open. You are observing the obstacle you're crashing into. You're gathering data on the texture of the wall you just hit.
You're learning the exact dimensions of the barrier. That is such a powerful shift in perspective.
It is. And he anchors this entire concept with a quote from Nelson Mandela that sets the stakes perfectly.
Oh, yeah. There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living.
Just an incredible quote. And then he pivots to prove this isn't just theory. He brings in serious historical perspective on what falling forward actually looks like in the real world.
Starting with Reggie Jackson,
Right. 2,600 strikeouts.
the most in the history of Major League Baseball.
It's just an astronomical number of failures.
It is. But Denzel's point is profound in its simplicity. Nobody sits around talking about Reggie Jackson's strikeouts.
No, they only remember the home runs.
Exactly.
Right.
And he follows that up with Thomas Edison. 1,000 failed experiments before he finally got to the 1,001st attempt, which resulted in the light bulb.
Right. And Denzel insists that every single failed experiment was just one step closer to success.
Which requires a complete mathematical reframing of how we process a failed attempt, right?
Absolutely. Culturally, we tend to view failure as a stop sign.
Yeah, like a definitive verdict from the universe that we are on the wrong path.
Or a devastating confirmation that we simply aren't good enough.
Hmm.
But the Edison example recategorizes failure completely.
How so?
It transforms it from a final verdict into a required component of the process. It's a necessary data point.
Oh, I see.
Like, if the physical reality of the universe dictates that you need 1,001 attempts to find the correct filament for a light bulb, then attempt number 400 is not a failure.
It's just attempt number 400.
Exactly. It's a prerequisite. You cannot bypass it to get to the end.
Okay, I love this concept, but let's play devil's advocate for a second here. For you listening, we have to look at the reality.
Sure, yeah.
We don't all have the luxury of wildly experimenting without a net. I mean, people have to pay rent, they have families.
They have very real, immediate financial and emotional obligations.
Exactly. So is he seriously telling an audience of graduates to just recklessly throw away their stability? How do we reconcile falling forward with actual survival?
That's the crucial question. And the distinction lies entirely in where you place your ultimate ambition and how you define the function of your current stability.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, looking back at that Mandela quote about not playing small, we can see this is absolutely not an endorsement of reckless endangerment.
Right.
Having a day job to pay the rent while you pursue a passion is not a fallback plan in a detrimental sense, provided that the day job functions as the fuel and not the destination.
Ah, the fuel, not the destination. That is key.
The insidious danger of the fallback plan activates when the safety net slowly morphs into the permanent residence.
So it's the profound difference between saying, I am working this accounting job to fund my independent film versus I am giving up on the film because this accounting job offers a really solid 401k and the film is just getting too hard to make.
That is the exact difference. The former is falling forward. You're using the solid ground you hit the income, the stability to push off of, again, toward the objective.
And the latter is falling back into a comfortable cushion and deciding the resistance just isn't worth the passion.
Right. You settle, you play small.
That conceptual framework is incredibly empowering. But, I mean, we have to admit that the actual physical, visceral experience of failing is just agonizing.
Oh, it's terrible. It's humiliating.
It makes your stomach drop. It makes you want to crawl under a rock and disappear forever.
Yeah, and Denzel doesn't offer a sanitized version of this at all. He leans directly into the humiliation.
He really does. He insists you will fail, you will lose, and you will embarrass yourself.
Brutally blunt. He just strips away all those traditional sunny graduation platitudes.
He forces the audience to look directly at the inevitability of public embarrassment. And he illustrates this with a story from early in his career that is pure, unadulterated cringe.
It is so hard to listen to, but so relatable.
It's universally relatable because it's just incredibly raw. So he manages to secure an audition for a Broadway musical.
Right.
And he describes it as the perfect role for him, with one minor, microscopic caveat: he absolutely cannot sing.
Which, in the context of musical theater, that is not a hurdle. That is a concrete wall.
A completely impenetrable wall. So visualize this scenario. He is standing in the wings of a Broadway theater waiting for his turn to audition.
Right.
And he's listening to the actor performing right before him. And this guy is singing, in Denzel's exact words, like Pavarotti.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He is giving this transcendent masterclass performance, hitting every single note perfectly. And Denzel says he can physically feel himself shrinking in the wings.
She's getting smaller and smaller.
We know that exact physical sensation. You're in the waiting room, and the person who goes before you is so intimidatingly competent that your brain immediately triggers the flight response.
It is the ultimate manifestation of imposter syndrome unfolding in real time. The contrast between the required standard, the Pavarotti-esque singer, and his own acute awareness of his inadequacy is entirely overwhelming.
The instinct to retreat, to deploy a fallback plan and just sneak out the back door must have been deafening.
Definitely. But he stays.
He stays. The director says thank you very much to the incredible singer, and it is Denzel's turn. He walks out onto the stage holding his sheet music.
And out of all the songs in the world, He chose to sing Just My Imagination by The Temptations.
It's so funny. He hands the sheet music to the accompanist at the piano.
Yeah.
She looks the music, she looks up at him, and then she looks out at the director in the dark, empty theater with a face of complete resignation.
The nonverbal communication in that silent exchange is absolutely agonizing.
It really is.
The accompanist, who is a seasoned professional, instantly recognizes the absurdity of the selection. She knows before a single note is played that this is going to be a catastrophe.
A total train wreck. So Denzel starts attempting to sing It's Just My Imagination once again. He's getting through the opening bars, and then he reaches the crucial part of the song where the backup vocals are supposed to kick in.
Right, the soaring, running away with me harmony.
But he's standing alone on a stage. There are no backup singers. There is just dead, hollow silence.
That is brutal.
He's standing there, frozen, waiting for a vocal track that does not exist in reality.
Oh, wow.
He realizes the silence is stretching on. He's not making any sound, so he desperately tries to jump back in and find the rhythm. Running, oh, yeah.
And the director mercifully, or perhaps mercilessly, cuts him off.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Washington.
It is the swift, polite guillotine of the professional audition room.
It's absolute, undeniable public failure. He has completely face-planted in front of the gatekeepers of his industry.
But the torture isn't over.
No. Naturally, he assumes he has been entirely dismissed. But they inexplicably call him back for the acting portion of the audition later.
Which is wild.
And he rationalizes this. He thinks, okay, maybe I can't sing a note, but I know I can act. Acting is my turf. I can salvage this.
He thinks he's back in his element.
But he steps into the room and fundamentally misunderstands the medium of the performance.
Yes. And this is a vital point of analysis regarding the nature of learning through failure.
How so?
Well, he explains to the graduates that he didn't grasp the stylistic mechanics required for musical theater.
Okay.
Musical theater acting is traditionally immense. The actors must project their performance, their voice, and their physicality to reach an audience member seated in the very back row of a massive auditorium.
Right, it's huge.
However, his training and his natural artistic inclination was geared toward realistic, intimate, naturalistic acting.
The kind of acting where you speak to your scene partner as if you were having a genuine conversation in a living room.
Exactly.
So he is paired up with a scene partner, and the script dictates a simple exchange about a cup. Denzel's line is, well, hand me the cup. And he delivers it naturally, conversationally, just like a normal human being.
Right.
But his scene partner, fully immersed in the musical theater style, responds in this massive, booming, dramatically over-the-top voice. Well, I will hand you the cup, my dear. The cup will be there to be handed to you.
That is hilarious.
Denzel is completely thrown off balance. He reacts naturally to the absurdity of the tone, looking at the guy like he's insane, and says, okay, well, should I give you the cup back?
And the partner booms back even louder. Oh, yes, you should give it back to me because you know that is my cup.
It's a complete structural mismatch of tone, style, and intent.
It really is.
Yeah.
He failed catastrophically at the vocal requirement, and then he failed to comprehend the foundational mechanics of the acting requirement for that specific environment.
He bombed both halves of the audition with spectacular thoroughness. He absolutely did not get the job.
No, definitely not. But the turning point of this entire narrative, the reason he is sharing this incredibly vulnerable moment, is what happened in the immediate aftermath.
Yes. He says, plainly, I didn't quit. I didn't fall back.
Exactly.
He walked out of that humiliating, soul-crushing room, a room where he had just been exposed as entirely inadequate, and he immediately began preparing for the next audition.
And then the next one, and the one after that.
What he's demonstrating here is the practical application of resilience.
He illustrates the vital ability to separate his core identity from a specific, localized, highly embarrassing outcome.
That's a great point.
He did not internalize the rejection. He didn't say, I am a failure as a human being and I have no business being an actor.
He said, I failed that specific audition.
That distinction is monumental. Okay. And to further explain this relentless persistence, he introduces an incredibly effective analogy.
The barbershop principle.
Yes. You hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you can get a haircut.
I love that so much. It speaks to the undeniable force of probability when you completely refuse to remove yourself from the equation.
Exactly. He mentions that he prayed constantly, but he also continued to fail constantly.
Hmm.
Yet, the accumulation of those failures wasn't interpreted as a cosmic sign to give up. It was simply the expected friction of the process.
It was the reality of hanging around the barbershop. Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's like rolling a heavily weighted die.
Oh, yeah.
Or, if you play video games, it's the concept of respawning in a brutal boss fight.
That's a great analogy.
The ultimate odds of success are not tied to a single high-stakes roll of the dice. Your breakthrough is mathematically inevitable if you simply refuse to leave the building.
You just keep putting the quarter back in the arcade machine.
You just keep showing up.
And the narrative payoff for this specific instance of hanging around the barbershop is nothing short of stunning. It provides perfect closure to the thesis of falling forward.
It gives me chills every time. 30 years later, 3 full decades after standing on that stage, failing to sing The Temptations.
Right?
He stars in a play called Fences on Broadway. He wins the Tony Award for his performance.
And he makes sure to dryly note to the audience, I didn't have to sing, by the way.
Which is fantastic. But the absolute mic drop moment of the story is the specific location. He won that Tony Award for his performance at the Court Theater.
Unbelievable.
It was the exact same venue, the exact same building where he had failed that first audition 30 years prior.
It is a profound testament to the architecture of a life built on the premise of falling forward.
It really is.
He returned to the very site of his greatest professional embarrassment, not as a defeated individual who had sought refuge in a fallback plan, but as an undisputed master of his craft.
Wow.
And having laid out this reality, he challenges the graduates with a highly pointed question. Every graduate here today has the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
That question changes the entire paradigm. It takes the pressure off of your innate, God-given talent and places the burden squarely on your courage.
Absolutely.
But there's a danger here. If falling forward is just about brushing off a bad audition, it's easy to dismiss as a Hollywood luxury.
Right, something only actors and artists need to worry about.
Exactly. But Denzel recognizes this limitation, which is why he completely shifts the stakes in the next phase of his speech.
He moves from the temporary sting of personal embarrassment to the permanent devastation of chronic regret.
This is where the speech gets genuinely haunting.
He begins this pivot with a hard, binary truth. If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
And he pairs this with an expression he credits to his wife. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
That establishes the foundational logic of taking any risk. But then he introduces an analogy borrowed from motivational speaker Les Brown.
Right.
And the tone of the entire address shifts from inspirational to profoundly existentially urgent.
The ghosts.
Deathbed ghosts.
He asks the audience, and by extension, he is asking you, listening right now, to visualize yourself on your deathbed. You are at the absolute end of the line.
Right.
And standing around your bed are these ghosts. But they are not the ghosts of your ancestors or friends who have passed or people you have wronged in your life.
No, they are the ghosts representing your own unfulfilled potential.
They are the ghosts of the brilliant ideas you had but never acted on. The ghosts of the unique talents you possessed but never dared to use because you were too busy clinging to a fallback plan.
We must deeply analyze the imagery he employs here because it is incredibly potent and deliberately uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is the right word.
These entities surrounding the bed are not sorrowful or weeping. They're described as angry, disappointed, and upset.
Yeah.
They lean in and speak directly to the dying person, saying, "We came to you because you could have brought us to life, and now we have to go to the grave together."
We have to go to the grave together. That specific phrasing is just devastating.
It really is.
Because it implies that an idea, a talent, a potential impact on the world is not just a passing thought. It is a living entity that is specifically entrusted to you.
Right.
And by playing it safe, by relying on the comfort of the fallback plan, you are not just missing an opportunity, you are effectively starving those living things to death.
It draws a remarkably stark contrast between the two distinct types of pain associated with navigating life and risk.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, the sting of bombing the audition at the Court Theater, the sting of striking out 2,600 times in front of thousands of fans, those are acute, temporary pains.
They are sharp, yes, but they heal.
Exactly. You can walk out of the theater, physically survive the embarrassment, prepare for the next audition, and try again.
Right.
But the pain of the ghost, the sudden, irreversible realization that you possessed a profound capability that you permanently suppressed out of fear, that is an irreconcilable grief.
A chronic, permanent pain that cannot be fixed because the clock has run out.
Precisely.
When I first heard this part of the speech, I felt a physical knot in my stomach.
Me too.
So I have to ask, because I know people listening might be feeling the exact same weight right now, is this ghost analogy just a massive existential guilt trip?
That's a fair question.
How are we supposed to process that level of pressure? Does it motivate you, or does it just paralyze you with the fear of reaching the end of your life and realizing you failed to actualize your potential?
It is a deliberate and profound reframing of how we calculate risk.
Okay.
Generally, the human brain calculates risk by weighing the potential pain of failure against the perceived safety of our current state.
Right. We say to ourselves, if I try to start this business and fail, I will look foolish, I will lose my savings, I will be publicly embarrassed.
And that feels heavy. But Les Brown's analogy demands that we place something much heavier, much more terrifying on the other side of that scale.
The ghosts.
Yes, the fear of those angry ghosts. The fear of taking unactualized potential to the grave must fundamentally outweigh the fear of striking out 2,600 times.
Wow. So it shifts the entire psychological burden.
Exactly. It moves the internal pressure from, I have to succeed right now or else I am a failure, to a much more liberating mandate. I just have to try, so I don't condemn this potential to the grave. The very act of trying becomes the victory itself, because the attempt is what keeps the ghosts away.
So falling forward is the act of bringing those ghosts to life, even if they come to life a little clumsily at first.
Right.
Even if they stumble out of the gate and look foolish, at least they're out of your head and existing in the real world. You haven't starved them.
Precisely. It is the necessary transition from internal abstract potential to external physical reality.
And that transition is inherently messy.
Fraught with errors and embarrassing Broadway auditions, but it is morally imperative. Which leads us directly into the next crucial layer of his argument.
Up to this point in the speech, the entire concept of falling forward could easily be read as a purely individualistic pursuit.
Yeah, like a self-help strategy.
Right. Don't waste your life, achieve your personal goals, get your Tony Award, avoid your personal deathbed regret.
But Denzel takes this concept of unused potential and completely shatters the self-centered perspective.
He really does. It isn't just a personal tragedy if you fail to act. It's a global deficit.
The ghosts don't just rob you of a fulfilled life. They rob the world of what you were specifically designed to contribute.
And he brilliantly grounds this call to action in his immediate physical reality.
Yes, he does.
He shares with the audience that he is currently jet-lagged because he had just returned from a trip to South Africa a mere 2 days prior.
And he notes that while it is a beautiful country, he witnessed areas of terrible, devastating poverty that desperately need intervention and help.